Aloha no. Here's a story which is part of my collection of some of my encounters. It's not included in my recent book, Light of the Aumakua. However, it has some bearing in the way I think. This is called my other Hanapepe place. When my landlord's house burned down, it became obvious that his son needed a place to stay, so I moved out and went on to another place in Hanapepe. That, of course, it needed repair. No worries, I'm pretty good at that, so I moved in and made repairs around me. I started with the upstairs rooms, well, actually room. There were 2 rooms upstairs, but I'd been forbidden to go into the other one on the right. It was full of the landlord's grandparents' belongings, so fixed up the room on the left and kept the door between the 2 locked. I'll tell you a little bit about that later. So I used the room that I fixed up as my bedroom. The living room, the kitchen, and the bath were downstairs. Nice, small, but comfy. But then it started. I used that room I had fixed up as my bedroom, like I said. And at night, a face would appear in the windows of that upstairs room. The one window on the east side was around 14 feet off the ground, and the window on the west side was positioned over a stairway. Nah, it couldn't be a practical joker. This was the real thing. The face appeared pretty regularly. I had experienced this kind of thing before, several times in fact. My old Hanapepe house just before this, my other house that I grew up in at Paumahu on Kauai, and a friend's place up in Kaua'i where I saw her landlord's grandfather looking in the window, but he had been long since passed. So it was familiar to me, and I knew I could help. In fact, a friend of mine, soon after that, came over and I offered he and his wife to stay up there in my room, and I would sleep downstairs for a while. But their response was an emphatic, "No way. That place has spooks or something." We stayed up there once, and that was enough for me. He even described the faces in the window. So, yeah, vindication. Well, by this time that he had come by, I'd already experienced the spooks, and I had dealt with it in my own way. The first thing I did was to tell the spirits that I could indeed see him. I recognized him as an old Japanese man. He had lived in the old place years before, and after his wife had passed, he lived there alone until his death. The problem was that he never left. All of his belongings and those of his wife were still up in that other room. I knew what I had to do. A friend of mine, Catherine, came over and helped me respectfully clean up that back room. There was a butsuran, a Buddhist altar, and she respectfully cleaned up the room and butsuran, packaging the old belongings and organizing it all. We lit some incense and let it go for a while, and I wanted to let that old lonely spirit get used to the idea. Now, a couple of nights later, I spent quite some time communicating with him, comforting him and telling him that it was okay and he could move on, that it was time. He could stop looking in the windows. I assured him that his wife's belongings would be in good hands. We had planned to pass the stuff on to his surviving grandchildren, and that seemed to suit him, and he calmed down. Well, I do believe that I had helped this kupuna move on to his new life. I never saw the window faces again, and as far as I know, neither has anyone else in the years since. Aloha. Check the comment section for the link to my book, Light of the Aumakua. Aloha no.